Hey, I'm Julie, a fan Balzer, and this little square is a lot more exciting than you might think it is. So I'm going to show you exactly why you want to make one of these and a couple more in this video. So let me show you how this works. I have a child's t-shirt here, and I have ironed it by folding it right under the arms. So I've ironed a crease into it, and as well as ironed it by folding a crease in half. So again, that's under the arms and in half, and you could do this with an adult t-shirt too. It's just easier to see it when it's a little t-shirt for the camera. Then you'll notice that this has a crosshatch grid. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just lining up this grid with this grid to sort of understand where the placement is to be correct on there, and also to see the size. You know, this is going to be pretty small. Do I want to size up to one of my other sizes? I could potentially fit something this large on here, but you can see how it's now drifting sort of into the armpits, and it doesn't really sit well on the t-shirt. So that's another reason that the cross hatches are very helpful. So maybe I want to go up to 4x4. That sits nicely on there. 5x5. Again, I'm looking to line it up with the creases in the t-shirt, and that also I think is a nice impactful. 6x6 feels like it's going to be getting a little bit big for this. I could maybe drop it down a little ways so it's not quite as high, but it's good. The image is then going to appear more to be on sort of the tummy of the person as opposed to in the chest area. So I think the biggest that I want to go is probably the 5x5, and I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't looked at the templates. So let me go ahead and grab a 5x5 design, and I'll show you how you actually place it, and then I'm going to show you how to make these guides. So thanks to my template, I knew to make my elephant in that 5x5 size. Now you'll notice that the elephant is a rectangle and not a square, and that's totally fine, but the widest point is still within the 5-inch template, so I know that it will fit on here perfectly. Okay, so now that the template has done its work of telling me what size to make my design, now I'm going to go ahead and use these hatches to again place this HTV. So what you want to do is you want to kind of fold your design in half. So obviously this is not a square, and it's not hurting it, and the sticky side is on the outside. And I'm just going to fold it in half the other way again. And I'm not going off the plastic. I'm going off of the design itself. So like I can see where the top of the trunk is. And I'm trying to line that up with the feet. Okay, so I folded it in half and I folded it in half. And now I can easily place those folds right in line with the folds that I have here. I know the size is correct. I know the placement is correct. So I'm going to bring this over to my heat press or my iron and press it on. As you can see, the folding had absolutely no effect whatsoever on this HTV. It looks fantastic. It's perfectly placed. It's perfectly sized, and all thanks to this little tool. So let's go ahead and make these using our ScanNCut. I'm here in Canvas Workspace for Mac, and the first thing I want to do is go on the left side over to the shapes, and I want to grab a square. So I'm simply going to click on it, and there's my square, but I want to resize it. So I want to have a series of squares that go from 3 inches to 11 inches. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So what I'm going to do is on the right side, I'm going to click on Edit. And you can see that there's a width and a height, and my aspect ratio button is checked, which means that when I change the width to 3, so I'm going to type in 3 and hit return, that the height is also going to change at the same time. So now I know I have a perfect 3-inch square. But I also need 2 sort of cross-hatching lines. So on the left side, I'm going to go over to this tool called Path, and I'm going to click, and then holding the Shift key down, I'm going to draw the line out. Now look what happens if I don't hold the Shift key. It's not necessarily straight. So I hold the Shift key down to make sure it's going to be straight, and I double click. And now I have a perfectly straight line, but I need to make it 3 inches too. So again, over on the right side with the editing panel where it says height, I'm simply going to delete what's there and type in 3, hit return, and now I know that my line is 3 inches. So now I need one going the other way. So I'm going to go back to the path tool and I'm going to click, hold the shift key to make sure it's going to be straight, double click. There is my horizontal line. And again, I want to go over to the edit menu and I want to change that to 3 inches. It didn't change. Let's try selecting it again and going ahead and changing the width to 3 inches. There we go. Got it to change this time. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want these to all be aligned, right? Because I want that crosshatch right in the middle of my square. So I'm going to click and drag across all of them. So that's going to select everything. That's what the blue line is. That's the selection tool. And then over in the align area, I'm going to hit the center align vertically and the center align horizontally. And you can see it's going to bring absolutely everything together. So I'm going to click off, which simply means that I'm clicking somewhere where there aren't any lines. And now you can see my perfect gridded area. However, there's a problem. If I send this over to my ScanNCut as it is right now, I'm basically going to get 4 squares cut out. The cross hatching lines I actually want to be drawn, not cut. So over in the layers panel on the right side, when I click on it, I can see my square is a cut file, my vertical line is a cut file, and my horizontal line is a cut file. But I want to change that from cut to draw, and now my interior lines are drawing lines, which is great. But before we go, there's one last thing I want to do. I want to add a little bit of text to this because I don't want to have to remember that it's 3 by 3 or get out my rulers. I want to mark it. So I'm going to take the text tool and I'm just going to click anywhere and I'm going to do 3 by 3, hit return. Now you can see that this is the font that came up. If you wanted to change the font to something else, then you would go on over to your properties panel right over here on the right, and you could pick whatever font you wanted. All of the TTF fonts on your computer will be read by Canvas Workspace. So I have my font and everything looks great. I'm just going to move my 3 by 3 onto my 3 by 3 area. But I also want to mark this as a drawing file, right? I don't want to cut out 3 by 3. I want it to be drawn on there. So now I have all my parts, but there's another thing we need to do, which is I need to group everything together so it moves as one. So I'm going to do that thing again where I click and select all the pieces by dragging across them. And now I'm going to use the shortcut Command G on my keyboard. And if you saw in the layers palette, what you probably saw is suddenly this thing came up that says group. And if I close the arrow here, you can see that I can just drag this around now as one piece. But more than that, remember I said we need to make a 4 inch, a 5 inch, a 6 inch, a 7 inch, an 8 inch, etc. And I don't want to have to do this whole process over and over again. All I want to be able to do is simply to duplicate what I already have. So I'm going to hit Option and drag. So that's on my keyboard. I did the Option and then I click and drag. That duplicates it. And now I'm going to resize it. So I'm going to go up to the edit menu and in the width, I'm going to type in 4 and that will automatically, then the height will go to 4. So now I have 4 by 4 and the only thing that's left is I need to change the label 3 by 3, right? So I'm going to go over to the layers panel and I'm going to make sure that I have selected the text and I know it's selected because it's blue. Then I'm just going to go ahead and click in it. And I can change this right now really easily to 4 by 4, hit return, and guess what? There's my beautiful 4 by 4. So I'm going to repeat this process to get my 5 by 5, my 6 by 6, my 7 by 7, etc., 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 until I have all the pieces. You will notice as I work that there's too much to fill this canvas. They're just going to be too big. And we'll go through that at the end once we've made all of our pieces. But basically right now, we just need to make every single one of the pieces and we're going to repeat the process over and over again. So you'll note that my 10 by 10 text is too large to fit onto my 10 by 10 piece. So I do need to resize that one. The 2 numbers are just going to not make it. Okay, so I've made all my pieces 3 by 3 through 11 by 11, and I have a big old mess. But we are going to fix that really quickly and easily. So basically, we're going to create several groups, and we're going to send these over to the ScanNCut in groups. So I need to go back to that layers palette. Now, obviously 11 by 11, nothing else can fit in the mat. So what I'm going to do to clear things up so I understand what's happening is I'm going to close the arrow. That's just going to make it a little bit less to deal with. And I'm going to close the eyeball, which means it's going to be invisible, which is great. I just need it to disappear. Then I'm going to drag on whatever my next size is. Let's say it's this 8 by 8. And can I fit anything else onto the canvas if 8 by 8 is here? Maybe I could fit the 3 by 3 with it. Let's see if I can grab that 3 by 3. Yep, the 3 by 3 is going to fit right in the corner. So now what I want to do is I want to select both of these, again, by dragging across them, and then using the keyboard shortcut Command G, I'm going to group them, and I can see which group it is because it's highlighted in blue. I'm going to close the arrow, and I'm going to close the eyeball. That's cleared away. Now I can start to deal with some of the other pieces that are here. So 10 by 10, nothing else is going to fit on here with the 10 by 10. So again, I can see it easily because it's blue and highlighted. So I'm going to close the arrow, close the eyeball. 9 by 9, I think the same thing is true. Nothing else is going to fit on here with it. So close the arrow, close the eyeball. Now, the 7 by 7 can definitely take, I would say, let's put it with the 4. It'll be just a little bit easier than I think the 5 is not going to fit. So here we go. 4 by 4 will fit in the corner just like that, or maybe even I can conserve some paper by having it go right there. And then I'm going to select both and Command G. I can see the group is highlighted in blue. I close the triangle. I close the eyeball. And now I have my 6 by 6 and my 5 by 5. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select both of them, Command G, and I'm going to close my arrow, but I'm not going to close my eyeball because what I want to do is I want to send this wirelessly over to my ScanNCut. So I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to choose Export Transfer FCM File. And it gives me a warning message. But I love this warning message because it says the objects that have been set as hidden are not available to export or transfer. That's exactly what I want. I only want what I can see. So I'm going to say, okay, transfer the FCM file. And then I can go on over to the machine and we can draw and cut these out. So the first step is I'm going to open the pen holder. And I'm going to drop the black pen in. There is a little place to put your cap here. I need to remove the blade and put the pen in with the Brother logo facing me. Now you always want to draw before you cut if you're doing both on a file. Now from the home screen, I'm going to choose Retrieve Data and the wireless button. And there are my files. Now I'm going to say, okay, please select, draw. And you'll notice that the squares disappeared, only the drawing lines appear. So the start button is not lit up because I need to go ahead and load my mat. I have some colored cardstock on here. I wanted to use something colored so that if I use a black t-shirt or a white t-shirt, it won't matter. And I'm going to use a couple different colors for as I work through all of these. So now that I've loaded the mat, I'm ready to go ahead and press start. Now that it's done drawing, I'm going to remove the pen and I'm going to place the blade in. I'm going to say, okay, please select. This time I'm choosing cut. And you'll notice that the numbers and the hash marks are gone. So now I'm ready to go ahead and press start. I'm going to unload my mat. And my first pieces are done. I'm going to put them aside. I'm going to head back to the computer and send the next set of files over. So now that I'm finished drawing and cutting these first files, I want to get the next ones. So this is how easy it is. I simply turn off the eyeball on this one, turn on the eyeball on the next one up, go back up to File, Export Transfer FCM file. I get that same warning. It's totally fine. And I'm going to go ahead and transfer my FCM file, and we'll head back to the machine. So I'm just going to repeat this process over and over until I have drawn and cut every single one of my pieces. And that's it. You've made your fabulous set of little sizing devices to use. And I hope that you will use them and have a really no fear process when you're using HTV to apply it to your t-shirts.